This is one of the biggest areas of concern where we have plaster, original plaster, that's cracked because of temperature variations, humidity.
My name is Will Stoudemeyer. I'm the director here at the Frank Museum. This museum is a historic home that was also once part of the Nebraska State Hospital for Tuberculosis. It served as the hospital in the earliest years of that institution, and over time served as the chief residence for the superintendent and doctors and other staff at the hospital.
Because of how family physicians came back to us.
So when I first began working at the Frank Museum, the home had been mostly restored on the first floor to its earliest appearance when it was a private residence in the 1890s. The upper levels of the home had seen very little work over many decades, and in fact the third floor, which had served as a residence for much of the staff at the tuberculosis hospital, had been almost completely untouched. What we decided to do was something a little bit different for a historic house museum, and to actually restore the upper floors of the home to the way the house appeared when it was part of this very important state institution, to use what had been left behind as a guide for that restoration work, and then in those spaces to interpret the history of that hospital. This hospital and its story is very important, not just to the history of Kearney, but really to the history of the entire state of Nebraska and the larger Great Plains region. This was an institution that over the course of its existence, over 60 years, treated thousands upon thousands of Nebraskans, Kansans, people from the larger region for this disease, for this very scary disease of tuberculosis.
Treating and containing tuberculosis is a great concern for the state of Nebraska. The uncontrolled spread of the disease among farmers, railroaders, and factory workers threatens the state economy. For this reason, state funding helps many pay for treatment, covering anywhere from half to the entirety of their healthcare costs. Some of these lower-income patients are African Americans, primarily from Lincoln and Omaha. At a time when people of color faced discrimination in housing, education, and access to facilities at home, at the state hospital they receive integrated housing and care. This extends to Hispanic and Native American patients as well.
It's important to keep in mind that with a place like this, in this part of the country, in the rural Midwest, integration is more the result of a lack of racial diversity, not the absence of racial prejudice. And so what we see early on in the history of the hospital is, in fact, bubbling controversies in the community as it becomes public knowledge that African American patients and white patients are receiving the same form of treatment and are actually sleeping in the same rooms. And it's one of the very first nurses who has to come out publicly and defend the practice of treating patients equally regardless of their race. And this is, of course, quite progressive for the early 1900s.
Thousands of children in Nebraska have their childhoods interrupted by tuberculosis, the disease spreading in classrooms and on playgrounds. For infected children from lower and working class families with little financial means, admission to Kearney's Tuberculosis Hospital was often the only solution. As many as 1 in 4 patients at the hospital are under the age of 18. Some are younger than 5. The hospital staff works hard to balance treatment, which includes hours of bed rest, with the needs of active, growing youth. Schoolwork is accompanied by picnics along the Kearney Canal, concerts on holidays, and the occasional play or pageant. For brief moments each day, these sick youths are allowed a childhood as they wish for health and a cure for their disease.
Hey, this is Will over at the Frank Museum. Is Lucas in the office? Well, you know, when you give me something good like that, I might get excited. Whatever he's got, I'd love to see it, and we'd probably be willing to take it. It's just you picked a funny day because we're having the tuberculosis hospital exhibit installed right now.
Well, I'm thrilled that you're opening up the rest of the house. It's wonderful that people are going to be able to know some of that history, because a lot of people have no idea what that disease was like.
My dad would just, probably shake his head and wouldn't want any of the attention or anything like that. I think he would be happy maybe to say, there was some good people here that treated a lot of people that really needed it, and maybe they should be remembered, or the good nurses and doctors that were involved.
TB is coming back. It's coming antibiotic resistant now. And we could see an upsurge in TB again. So, who knows?
What we hope this exhibit will do is help to dispel some of the myths associated with the State Tuberculosis Hospital, and also provide a place for people to connect with this important part of our community's past and of our state's history. It's important for us to understand the kind of radical approach that was taken here as well, that this was an institution designed to treat the poor, that this was an institution that the state of Nebraska subsidized in order to ensure that the poor in our state could receive treatment for this disease. This was a radical approach in the early 1900s, and it's important for us to think about what that might mean for us today.